At 17 years old, I lost my eyesight forever, and this is the story of how it happened, part 7. Okay, so in part 5, we kind of left off the story, and definitely check out part 6 because I go into a little bit of a Q&A on your questions that you guys have been leaving on this series. So thank you so much for that. Keep them coming if you've got any queries. We left off with me being referred to the big boys in the hospital in London. That's what I had in my mind. I was like, if I'm referred there, then something is going wrong. I think, to be honest, at this point, we just wanted second opinions. It was so rare and I was starting to lose my sight. I didn't really know what was happening and it all felt like a massive whirlwind. I remember really vividly, this was the start of me and my mom's journey on the trains for pretty much for a living. No, I am joking, I'm probably exaggerating, but we went probably every 3 months from then on. Like my whole childhood was defined by that train route from Birmingham to London. It was so funny. I would feel so snappy when I go to the eye hospital. I'd have all these like bottled up emotions where I just didn't know what the outlet was. And because obviously I was feeling adult emotions in a little girl's body, I didn't really know how to articulate. And bless my mom, she would always talk to me and ask me if I was okay, but I didn't really have the words to be able to say, oh well, I've just lost my eyesight, Mom. I think we're all just quite distraught. At the end of the day, this was the first time that I was going through like this, and you know, my mom and dad didn't have a disability themselves. They just wanted to be able to help their little girl who was struggling. And I know that a lot of the time we would just be worried about the state of my condition because it was so rare. So we just thought, if we can go to London and get second opinions from consultants who have seen the condition before. And as I said in a previous part, like there was only a few women and girls in the UK actually losing their sight to this condition because it's so rare. I think, to be honest, me and my parents didn't really know what to do. I remember being a patient at both Birmingham and London for a while because the consultants knew each other and they were talking back and forth. They would have meetings together about my case. And when my eyesight was deteriorating in my right eye and I would have that scan at Birmingham, my consultant would then fax. They were faxing back then, even in 07. I don't know whether they still do that, but my consultant would fax Professor Moore in London and they would talk about me. At this time, there were differing opinions, and I think this kind of made us want to go to London, and this is what sparked us trying to look for different consultants who knew a lot more about the condition. Not that Birmingham wasn't amazing, but I just think that there was talk of having a belt, which is, I don't know the technical word for it, but basically they were going to try and save my vision in my right eye in Birmingham with this belt that kind of went round my retina, but would change the look and shape of my eye and make it a lot smaller. Not that, you know, we really cared about the aesthetic of my eye if it gave me some usable vision back, but there wasn't a lot of literature about this actually working within my condition. I know a lot of people with IP get laser, but at that time there wasn't enough evidence to really justify whether I would get usable vision for a long amount of time, considering the fact that my retina had pinged off quite substantially already. It was kind of a last-ditch attempt to try and save things. And I think from my perspective, from my parents' perspective, we just wanted to make sure that, you know, doing that was the right thing to do. And in the end, after a lot of deliberation, when we went to London with my surgeon and now consultant, Mr. Ezra and Professor Moore, they would talk at length. And I remember really vividly being referred to Moorfields and being in the children's unit, Ronald McDonald House. I remember because I used to see this like massive statue of him in the children's ward. And it was such a colourful hospital, so sweet. But I remember really vividly being 11 and Professor Moore and Mr. Ezra having a massive talk about what they would do and what was the best course of action. And I know it wasn't an easy decision for them, but in the end, I think after several appointments and us staying there overnight actually, in the hospital, I remember it being quite late. I think it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock. It felt like that to me. It was probably more like 6 o'clock, but it was after clinic ended. They were really deliberating and they said, Mr. and Mrs. Edwards, I don't think we're going to operate on Lucy. We're just going to have her here and we're going to monitor her remaining vision in her left eye. And that was what happened. And we took it, and obviously you guys can see my right eye. She has a bit of a mind of her own. She's a queen. I love the fact that I look different and my eyes look different. And it's just a part of my story. Like, I could have had, you know, the muscles, have Botox in the muscles, or like corrective surgery to make my eyes, you know, look the same way. But to be honest, it's a part of my story, and I've had a lot of eye pain, and I don't want any more operations if I don't have to. And I just think I love it. Make sure to come back for part 8, because we talk loads in the next episodes about what happened to my left eye, what actually was going on, how I was feeling, because it gets even worse.